There is someone in your life right now that God has been trying to remove. Not a stranger. Not an enemy you never trusted. Someone close. Someone you have known for years. Someone you have prayed for, cried over, sacrificed for, and defended when others questioned them. And deep in your spirit, in that quiet place where God speaks and the world cannot reach, you have felt it. A pulling away. A heaviness every time you leave their presence. A still small voice that keeps whispering the same thing over and over in your most honest moments before God. This person is not supposed to be in this next season of your life, but you have ignored it because they are family, because you have history, because leaving feels like betrayal, because you were taught that love means staying, because you are afraid of what people will say, because somewhere along the way, you confused loyalty to a person with obedience to God, and so you have stayed. And stayed, and stayed, while quietly, slowly, imperceptibly, that relationship has been draining the very life, the very faith, the very peace, the very purpose that God has been trying to build inside you. Today, I need to tell you something that your closest friends may not have had the courage to say. Something your own heart has been afraid to fully accept. Something that God has been whispering to you in prayer, in sleepless nights, in moments of inexplicable heaviness, and something He is now saying clearly, directly, and urgently through this message. There are 5 types of people God is warning you, right now, in this season, to walk away from. Not with hatred, not with bitterness, not with revenge, but with the quiet, courageous, faith-filled obedience of someone who trusts that God's plan for their life is more important than any person's comfort, including their own. Proverbs 13 verse 20 establishes a principle that every believer must understand. Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. Your associations are not neutral. Every person you allow to remain close to you is either adding to your life or subtracting from it, either calling you higher or pulling you lower, either confirming God's voice or drowning it out. And some of those people, God is saying, it is time to release. Stay with me through all 5, because I believe with everything in me that God placed this message in your path today for a specific reason. And one of these 5, you will know exactly which one, was written for you. 1. The person who only appears when they need something. You know this person. They disappear for weeks, sometimes months. No calls, no check-ins, no prayers offered for you, no genuine interest in how you are doing, how your health is, how your family is, what battles you are facing, what God is doing in your life. And then, without warning, they reappear. And when they do, they always arrive with a need, a financial request, a favor, an emotional crisis that somehow always requires your time, your money, your energy, your resources, your peace. And because you are a person of faith, because you are generous, because you genuinely love people, because you were raised to help when someone asks, you give. Every single time. And every single time, the moment the need is met, they disappear again. This is not friendship. This is not family love. This is not even human decency. This is what the Bible calls taking advantage of grace. In John chapter 6, after Jesus multiplied the loaves and fed thousands of people, a massive crowd began following him everywhere. And Jesus, who sees into the heart of every person, stopped and confronted them directly. He said in verse 26, "You are looking for me, not because you saw the signs I performed, but because you ate the loaves and had your fill." They were not following Jesus. They were following what Jesus could give them. And Jesus, the Son of God, the embodiment of love and compassion, did not chase them. He did not adjust his message to keep them comfortable. He did not lower his standards to maintain the crowd. He let them walk away. If Jesus himself drew a line with people who only wanted his provision and not his presence, then, beloved, you have biblical permission to do the same. Your love is not a vending machine. Your generosity is not an obligation. Your presence in someone's life is a gift, and gifts are meant to be received with gratitude, not extracted through manipulation. The next time this person appears, before you give, before you help, before you open your home and your resources, pause, pray, and ask God honestly, is this me being a blessing, or am I enabling someone who has never genuinely invested in me? Because your resources are meant for the people God has assigned to your life, not for those who only visit when they need a withdrawal. 2. The person who celebrates your failures more than your victories. This person is harder to identify, because they do not look like an enemy. They smile. They sit in your church. They may even call themselves your friend. They say the right words at the right moments. They have been present in enough of your good seasons that you have given them a permanent place in your life. But watch them closely. When something goes wrong in your life, when you face a setback, a disappointment, a failure, a loss, they are suddenly very available, very attentive, very present. Their interest in you increases dramatically when your life is in crisis. But when God blesses you, when the promotion comes, when the prayer is answered, when the breakthrough finally arrives, when your child succeeds, when your health is restored, something changes. The energy shifts. The enthusiasm feels forced. The congratulations come slowly, if at all. And sometimes, almost immediately after your good news, they find a way to introduce doubt. A subtle question. A gentle warning. A reminder of past failures dressed as concern. Romans 12 verse 15 commands believers to rejoice with those who rejoice and mourn with those who mourn. Notice, rejoicing comes first. A true friend finds it easier to celebrate your victories than to counsel your defeats. They are genuinely, uncomplicatedly, freely happy when God moves in your life. When someone in your circle consistently finds it easier to sit with your pain than celebrate your progress, that is not friendship. That is a spiritual dynamic that God is asking you to examine carefully. Because a person who cannot genuinely celebrate what God is doing in your life will, whether consciously or unconsciously, work against it. You cannot afford to have people in your inner circle who are secretly comfortable with your struggle. Not in this season. Not when God is preparing to do something new. Walk in love. Pray for them. But move them from your inner circle to your outer circle, and guard your victories with the same care you guard your wounds. 3. The person who makes you feel guilty for growing. This is the person who knew you before the healing, before the deliverance, before God changed your life, renewed your mind, redirected your path. They knew the old version of you, and something in them is deeply uncomfortable with the new one. Every time you talk about what God is doing in your life, they remind you of who you used to be. Every time you make a decision that reflects your growth, they question your motives. Every time you establish a boundary, enforce a standard, or choose God's direction over what is comfortable and familiar, they call you different, proud, judgmental, like you think you're better than everyone else. And because you love them, their words cut deep. You begin second-guessing your growth. You begin shrinking yourself to maintain the relationship. You begin going back to old conversations, old environments, old patterns, not because God led you back, but because their discomfort made you feel guilty for moving forward. Isaiah 43 verses 18 to 19 records God speaking directly to this pattern. Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? God says forget the former things. But this person keeps dragging you back to them. Beloved, not everyone is meant to go with you into your next chapter. Some people were assigned to your past season, and their resistance to your growth is not evidence that you are wrong. It is evidence that they were not designed for where you are going. You are not responsible for managing other people's comfort with your transformation. You are responsible for stewarding the work God has done in you, and protecting it from voices that call it backward instead of forward. Keep growing. Keep changing. Keep becoming who God designed you to be. And trust that the people meant for your next season will celebrate the very things that make others uncomfortable. 4. The person who brings constant chaos into your peace. Before this person enters the room, or calls, or messages, you feel it. A tightening in your chest. A quiet bracing. An unconscious preparation for whatever storm is about to arrive. And when they leave, whether an hour later or a day later, you need time to recover, to decompress, to find the peace that was there before they arrived. You have prayed about it. You have tried to fix it. You have adjusted your responses, your boundaries, your approach, and still, every interaction leaves you depleted in a way that no other relationship does. This is not a coincidence. This is a signal. Colossians 3 verse 15 gives us one of the most practical spiritual tools in all of Scripture. Let the peace of God rule in your hearts. The word rule in the original language means to act as an umpire. Peace is the referee God placed inside you to call the plays of your life. When peace is present, you are in bounds. When peace consistently withdraws, you have stepped out of bounds. If a specific person in your life consistently causes the peace of God to withdraw from your heart, God is using that very signal to speak to you. He is not asking you to analyze the situation further. He is not asking you to give more chances. He is saying, through the language of your own spirit, that this connection is costing you something He never intended for you to lose. Your peace is not a luxury. It is a spiritual necessity. It is the environment in which God speaks, heals, builds, and moves. And any person who consistently destroys that environment is, whether they intend it or not, interfering with what God is trying to do in your life. You are allowed to protect your peace, not out of selfishness, but out of stewardship. Because a woman at peace with God is dangerous to the enemy. A woman whose spirit is calm, whose mind is clear, whose heart is anchored in God, she prays with power. She hears God's voice. She moves with purpose. Protect that woman. That woman is you. 5. The person God has already removed, but you keep letting back in. This is the hardest one. And I need you to receive it gently, because I know how much this one costs. There is someone in your life that God already moved. He closed the door. He ended the season. He made it clear, through circumstances, through the withdrawal of peace, through closed doors, through the counsel of people who love you, through his own still small voice, that this person was not meant to continue in your story. And you let them go. But then they came back, with an apology, with a changed attitude, with tears that reminded you of everything you once had. And because you are a person of faith who believes in restoration, because you serve a God of second chances, because your heart is genuinely tender and your love is genuinely real, you open the door again. And slowly, quietly, the same patterns returned. The same drain, the same confusion, the same heaviness, the same interference with your peace, your growth, your relationship with God. And now you are standing at the same door again, wondering if you made a mistake, wondering if you are wrong for feeling what you feel, wondering if God is asking you to try again or finally, completely, let go. Beloved, hear this carefully. God is not the author of confusion. 1 Corinthians 14 verse 33 declares it clearly. For God is not a God of disorder, but of peace. When God removes something from your life and it returns to bring the same disorder, the same disruption, the same pain, the same interference, God did not send it back. Something else did. And your willingness to keep reopening that door is not faith. It is not love. It is not forgiveness. Forgiveness does not require restoration of access. You can fully forgive someone, you must fully forgive them, while also fully honoring the boundary God established when he closed that door. The prodigal son's father ran to meet his returning child, but the prodigal son had genuinely changed. He had hit rock bottom. He had come to his senses. He returned not to access his father's resources again, but in genuine repentance and transformation. Not every return is a prodigal return. Some returns are simply the enemy using familiar faces and familiar feelings to pull you back into a season God already delivered you from. Ask God for discernment, not for feelings. Feelings lie, not for what others think. They cannot see what God sees. Ask God directly, in the quiet of prayer, with an honest and surrendered heart. Is this your restoration or the enemy's re-entry? And then, whatever he says, obey it completely. 5 people, 5 warnings, 5 relationships that God, in his love, in his wisdom, in his perfect knowledge of your future, is asking you to examine with honesty and courage today. The person who only comes when they need something. The person who celebrates your failure more than your victory. The person who makes you feel guilty for growing. The person who destroys your peace every time they enter your world. And the person God already removed, but you keep letting back in. I know walking away is not easy. I know it costs something real, something that cannot be fully explained to someone who has not felt it. The grief of releasing someone you love is a real grief. God does not minimize it. He does not dismiss it. He sees every tear it costs you, but he also sees your future. And he knows that the next chapter he has written for your life, the one filled with the peace, the purpose, the joy, the relationships, and the breakthroughs he has prepared, cannot fully begin until you release what he has already ended. Jeremiah 29 verse 11 is his promise to you. For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Those plans are waiting. That future is real. That hope is already prepared and already coming. But some of it cannot arrive until your hands are empty enough to receive it. Let go of what God is asking you to release. Trust that he would not ask you to release it unless something greater was already on its way. Your obedience in this moment, however painful, however costly, however misunderstood by the people around you, is the very act of faith that opens the door to everything God has promised. Walk away with love. Walk away with prayer. Walk away with forgiveness in your heart. But walk away, because what God has for you on the other side of this obedience is worth every step it costs you to get there. If this message spoke directly to your heart today, share it right now with someone who needs the courage to hear it. Subscribe to the God Signal so you never miss the word God has for your season. And write in the comments, God, give me the courage to release what you have already removed. I trust that what you have for me is greater than what I am holding on to. Declare it as your prayer. Declare it as your faith. Declare it as your surrender to the one who loves you more than anyone you will ever be asked to walk away from. God bless you. Your next chapter is waiting.